You're listening to this podcast, so I know you've got a curious mind. Here's a helpful fact that you may not know yet. Drivers who switch and save with Progressive save over $900 on average. They make it super simple. Pop over to Progressive.com, answer some questions, and you'll get a quick quote with coverage options tailored to your choices. Plus, you'll see which discounts you may qualify for, like the online quote discount or savings for paying in full. In fact, 99% of Progressive Auto customers earn at least one discount. See if you could save when you switch to Progressive. You'll feel good about making a savvy choice. Visit Progressive.com and see if you can enjoy a little extra cash back. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. National average 12-month savings of $946 by new customers surveyed who saved with Progressive between June 2024 and May 2025. Potential savings will vary.
Howard, my dad was T-boned by a utility vehicle and is in surgery now. What should I do?
I'm sorry to hear about that. It's really great that you're getting him the medical care and treatment that he needs right now. These are three important things that I think you need to know. Injuries are unexpected and turn lives upside down. I'm Howard Aiken, and I'm here to help. If you or a loved one have been hurt at work or in a car, truck, or rideshare accident, call 312-6-million. Injury law made personal. That's Aiken Law.
I say in the spring training, we have a really good team, really good young players, and we're playing really good baseball and we're playing hard. So I just recommend to the fans like support us and support the player because we're going out every game to try to win the ball game.
From your favorite source for Chicago White Sox talk, delivering news, interviews, analysis, and more. This is the Sox Machine podcast with your hosts, Jim Margalus, James Fegan, and Josh Nelson.
Thanks, Rob, and welcome to a new episode of the Sox Machine podcast. I'm your host, Josh Nelson, and it's Sunday night, May 17th, 2026, as we record this show. What a weekend for White Sox fans. After a tough loss to the Chicago Cubs on Friday night, in which that game was tied 4-4 late, but then Jordan Hicks lost control and the Cubs ended up winning 10-5. But on Saturday, Miguel Vargas, Colson Montgomery, and Munetaka Murakami all homered, and the White Sox won 8-3. So it set the stage for Sunday, and honestly, might be the best regular season game we've seen from the White Sox since the Field of Dreams game, because the Cubs jumped out to a quick 3-0 lead in the first, and they increased that lead to 4-1 at one point. But the White Sox chipped away, eventually tying the game. And then in the bottom of the 8th inning, Tristan Peters hit his first career home run, a 3-run shot, and it seemed that blast had sealed the game. But unfortunately, Seranthony Dominguez struggled again and allowed a 3-run homer to Michael Conforto. With the game going into extra innings, the Cubs scored in the 10th inning, giving them an 8-7 lead, and the mood was starting to turn sour. But Edgar Quero, who has been struggling mightily this season, is at risk of losing his roster spot if Kyle Teel ever returns, unleashed on a Ryan Rollison fastball for a 2-run walk-off home run, his first home run of the season. The White Sox win the first Crosstown Classic series of the season, and they finish their longest homestand of the season, going 7-2. Here's White Sox manager Will Venable sharing his thoughts after Sunday's win.
Really on both sides, both teams on both sides of the ball, just really impressive stuff. A great game to watch. Huge. Obviously, that's a huge spot. We believe in Edgar, and he's working so hard to get himself back on track. And obviously, that's a good sign right there. And a base hit earlier in the game as well. And then Tristan with a big homer, obviously. So, to be able to get runs there at that part of the order with Slug is great for the offense.
The White Sox are 24-22. They're still a game back of Cleveland for first place in the American League Central, but they have the 4th best record in the league. Venable was asked if this series win is something that his team could continue to build off.
It's obviously great to win a big series, to win it at home in front of the fans. At the same time, I think this team believes in themselves, and every time we are able to go out and do something like this, that belief grows. So in that sense, obviously a productive series. They just continue to play all 9 innings, every single pitch. It's something that Showman talks about in the hitters' meetings every day. Just competing, 9 innings from start to finish. So those guys continue to do it. They have the energy for it, and they just continue to put out a lot of energy on a daily basis.
Colson Montgomery shared post-game that he and his teammates are starting to believe that this season could be special and they are never out of a game.
I mean, I think it's, it's huge, and I think everyone believes in themselves just from, the preparation and everything that they do before the games. And, we all believe in each other. We all have confidence in each other. We know that, if someone, doesn't get the job done, the next guy is up. And, we had a lot of guys, unfortunate that, we went down in the ninth inning, but we had, it was the whole dugout. We were like, all right, let's go. We still have a chance, to win it. So.
Edgar Quero showed a lot of emotion running the bases for his walk-off. He was asked post-game what that home run meant to him and the team.
It means a lot for everybody in the clubhouse, for Chris, for the manager, for the coaches, for the players. It means a lot to win this series. That has been like 4 or 5 years, and it means a lot for everybody in the clubhouse. Especially we play really good baseball, and happy for the swing that I made in the last inning. I feel amazing. Right away when I hit the ball, I thought I knew that was going like deep. I don't know if it was a homer because that the field is pretty big in that part, but I feel it was really good contact.
Where does hitting the walk-off home run against the Cubs rank in Quero's best baseball moments?
This is big. This is pretty close to my MLB debut. It's pretty close. It's tied right now. I hopefully hit another one in the World Series like that.
Tristan Peters, how does it feel to finally hit a home run?
It's incredible. Awesome for the South Side. Everybody's fired up. It's incredible.
Peters was asked if that home run is extra special, knowing the journey his baseball career has taken him.
It's just like pressing forward every day. You got to understand, you're not going to be perfect. This game is full of ups and downs, as we all know, and just kind of grinding through those and just enjoying the moment too when something like this happens, and then next day, focusing on that day.
Now joining me as Sox Machine's managing editor, it's Jim Margalus. And Jim, what a weekend for the White Sox. What a homestand, going 7-2 in their last 9 games. How are you feeling about this White Sox team?
Oddly pleased or relaxed. It's nice to see that there was this latent group of White Sox fans who were just wanting to be entertained. And it seems like you saw them come out of the woodwork this weekend. You've seen it over the course of the homestand, but especially ready for crosstown. As soon as they punched back against Edward Cabrera and the game one didn't go well, but they showed signs of life. They made Cabrera sweat. They made Counsell have to work. Got away from the front of their bullpen, but you saw that once there was something to cheer about against the Cubs, you saw this team still holds up against a division leader versus a Royals team that may not be as good as everybody thought, and a Mariners team that struggled to get it going. It was a real litmus test, and they passed the litmus test, or at least the indicator is that it's a decent team. We'll see if they have the depth to last over the course of a full season, but as presently constructed, they are hitting the snot on the ball. They're pitching well enough. They have the ability to get back into games. They have enough relievers to keep a game close, or if they have to scrap through a majority of the game, like we saw on Sunday, they occasionally can do that. And based on the expectations set before the season, based on what they're spending, that is about all you can hope for at this point, to be 2 games over 500. So yeah, I think you're seeing a lot of fans now being activated just by the sense of oh, this is entertainment. I am entertained. This is not an obligation to the fandom that my grandparents picked, and I'm just kind of going through the motions because it's penance. No, it's it was a good product. It is a good product right now.
Yeah, the offense you mentioned just has been clicking, and just on Sunday's win, it's Tristan Peters, Jim. Tristan Peters against a crosswind at right field that was knocking down multiple fly balls in that game. It's Tristan Peters with his first career homer to give the White Sox a 3-run lead. And then when Seranthony Dominguez couldn't hold it, and we'll talk about that later in this show, but when you just had an odd feeling with the Cubs taking the lead again in the 10th inning, up 8-7, when that ball left Quero's bat, like I got up off my couch and I thought maybe, just maybe, it could hit off the wall for a double, but no, it landed in the bleachers. First career homer for Peters. Quero, who has been struggling so much this year, comes through with the walk-off homer. Murakami, Montgomery, and Vargas are still crushing. It is like this entire offense right now, Jim, despite the big disparities in talent of everybody in the lineup, everyone finds a way to contribute. Andrew Benintendi had a perfect day at the plate. I know he had that sack bunt. He almost beat, on a bad Achilles, Andrew Benintendi almost beat out a bunt to get an infield single. That's what amazes me right now in the last 9 games, is that it's just not the stars, but the role players are coming up in very big moments.
And it seems like they benefit from having that heart of the lineup. You having a 2-3-4, 3-4-5, wherever they're hitting on a given day. There is, I think, like an orbit around them, which I think helps.
So if they're the planet and everybody else is what, the moons?
Yeah, or satellites, whatever you want to call it.
Okay.
Yeah, my lack of aeronautical knowledge will reveal itself if I pursue the analogy too much further. But just in the sense that, they have big bats. They know that if they can just get the lineup over to them, good things might happen. So I think you're seeing a kind of a cascade effect of, like, when you get to 7, 8, 9, just like, okay, I just need to get the order to 1 and we're good. So they're not trying to do too much. It's not like a case where, previous years, 121 lost seasons, where it's like 3 bats and then like 6, or 4 through 9 is a mess. And, the pitching's not great. And so you're staring at a deficit from the second inning on. And what do you do with that when you have, possibly 2 innings before, like, the good hitters come back up and they can be pitched around? In the case of, like, Luis Robert Jr., like, when teams just made him chase, like, he was very uncomfortable doing that. So, like, they didn't have that kind of combination of discipline, which I think Murakami and Vargas have. And then you add Montgomery to, Montgomery has some discipline, but I think, he has probably, might be the easiest to pitch to, and that's saying something, because he still has, he's still doing quite a bit of damage. But with the 3 of them working and having those, I think, collected at bats where they don't look like they're forcing it and still producing a lot, not to get all like armchair psychologist about it, but I imagine it can't hurt to have your big bats being like, yeah, it's, if we draw a walk, it's cool. And like, if you get to the bottom of the order and just like, oh, I just need a single. Like, I don't need to try to tie this game on myself, or, just put a run on the board instantly. As long as keep the line moving, because guys in the lineup actually keep the line moving. I think it's probably more of a collective effort than previous lineups were able to pull off.
Yeah, and that's something that Montgomery mentioned, as we heard from him earlier in the show, Jim, about that belief that everybody on this team right now trusts one another, that, to your point, they're willing to take that walk. They're willing to move a runner over because they can count on their teammate behind them to pick up the slack in case, if they don't succeed in driving them in. That's why, like, after this series, like, what do we do with this? Like, what am I supposed to believe? Like, is this team for real? What makes this team so unique compared to maybe the 2021 squad, Jim, is we got a month of Yermer Mercedes mania, right? 1 month, and then he was gone. But then it was like the star players that we were expecting the White Sox to contribute and carry the load. They did that with occasion moments from, like, Brian Goodwin. But for this squad, if you're going to have Tristan Peters and Edgar Quero come up in the clutch in a high-intensity, sold-out atmosphere, like against the Chicago Cubs, and Vargas, Murakami, and Montgomery are playing like true all-stars, like, for me, I know how tough of a schedule it is in June, that 18-game gauntlet now, Philadelphia, Atlanta, Los Angeles Dodgers, New York Yankees, Detroit on the road, and then Cleveland at home. That's a very tough 18-game stretch. So maybe saying this now is putting the cart before the horse. But I do think for White Sox fans, Jim, it is time to start believing. Because if the Cubs have way more talent. The Cubs should have won this series. They should be walking away from this series feeling like we really let down. We should at least won 2 out of 3 against this White Sox team. But from a White Sox perspective, if they have this ability to punch back multiple times in a series or even in a game, when they're not getting the best level of starting pitching and still able to overcome that, I think that's what gives me a reason to believe that what we are watching right now from the White Sox is real. And based on everybody else in the American League, if nobody wants this, the White Sox are in a great position to take a playoff spot, and this season could be pretty special.
Yeah, I think, even getting before that June stretch, this homestand was supposed to be tough.
Yes.
Mariners, Royals, Cubs. And, they swept the Royals. They took 2 out of 3 from both the Mariners and Cubs. And, kind of a way where, the Mariners thought they should have won 2 out of 3 and the Cubs should have won 2 out of 3, but the White Sox won both. And that's part of being a good team, is being able to kick out of pins and, never letting the 3 count happen or avoiding it more often than not. So they have that going for them. And the thing I keep thinking about too is, using the phrase fun bad and, using fun bad as an aspirational thing. And some people don't like that term because it's still bad, and can bad be fun? And I think the point of fun bad is that there's a thin line between fun. It just goes from fun bad to fun because the elements are there. It's just a matter of they trip over themselves a little bit too often, or they have some days in the rotation that can't possibly make up for enough. So they are going to win 73 games instead of 83, or 75 instead of 87. And in this case, that still might happen because of some depth issues, and we'll see what happens when June rolls around. But for the time being, as the American League looks for the players the White Sox currently have on their roster and are able to put in the lineup or in a rotation a given day, they should feel pretty good about themselves. And so I think it's going to be, you're looking at the fun part right now in terms of this homestand. The bad might roll around, but if it's the opener of the Cubs series where it's, it's a blowout, or they lost by a lot, the bullpen collapsed in on them and the game got away from them, but there was reason to show up at the park. That's, in the 300 lost seasons in a row, and the whole idea of the fan murdering games, fans show up and they're one of 11,000 fans that show up in that game, and they just leave thinking why, or that was a waste. And when you have so many of those games, it just takes such a toll on the product and the ratings and the ability to stoke any kind of enthusiasm. So that's why I take fun bad as a good thing in this stage of the development, because you want a reason to show up, and you want a reason high five, or you have a fleeting moment of hope. And in this case, on Sunday, the White Sox had a fleeting moment, and then they staged another one, and all of a sudden they were leading, and then they took a big punch in the stomach in the 9th and were behind entering the bottom of the 10th. And, so many times this could have been well, they tried. And I think they're at the point where there's enough talent to where trying gets them most of the way there. And now it's just a matter of having the right guys coming up at the right time, or having the right pitcher on the right day, or the right reliever rested enough to where they can actually do it.
Yeah, the conversations of the season are ever changing. We started this season thinking, all right, well, if Austin Hayes is healthy and hitting well, he's going to get dealt. Who else could get traded by the White Sox? Now it's who could the White Sox possibly target in the trades? Because they have the 4th best record in the American League right now, Jim. We are in the middle of May. The Chicago White Sox have the 4th best record in the American League.
And they're young talents doing it. Or they're fixed in place talent. I guess, Murakami might be the shortest term one there just because of his contract, but they're not getting by on Austin Hayes and, Reese McGuire. When they signed him, they're not getting by on the short termers who were supposed to be expunged one way or another. It's all players who are supposed to be fixtures. In the case of Miguel Vargas, maybe he wasn't seen as a fixture just because of the,
well, he's changed that conversation quickly.
Certainly. But coming in the season, it was okay, bat, unimpressive defense. Sure. What do you do with him? A second division starter, or is he a bench player, role player, that sort of thing? But he has years of control left. He's not yet hitting arbitration. So he can certainly, make a platform for himself to be part of it. Anybody can, like in the case of Vargas, like he's the one doing it the most. And that's what makes you think like, well, even if the wheels do fall off this little bit or the wrong guy gets hurt, like you shouldn't feel dumb for like believing or thinking like there could be something here, because if they, if you got to the end of a season or you like went into a coma, woke up and the White Sox won 90 games in 2026, you'd say like, well, how'd that happen? And like the way it's happening, or the way it would happen, is the way it's happening right now. The young guys stepping up, really smooth transitions from AAA to the majors, and then just an out of nowhere pitching performance in the case of Davis Martin. So that's why, like, it shouldn't feel like Lucy pulling the football away if it somehow goes belly up, because even just the talent that's showing up is the right talent.
Big thanks to our sponsor, BetterHelp, for partnering with us for this important conversation about mental health.
This is Steve Smith here, former NFL wide receiver and host of the 89 show on YouTube. So having a counselor and working with BetterHelp, that gives you an opportunity to really start to unpack. But people don't understand, when you unpack things, you also open up a box that you're not always sure what's inside. So I think that's why seeing a professional is extremely important. If you need someone to open up to, visit BetterHelp. That's betterhelp.com/89 to get started.
This offense is clicking for the White Sox, and we made mention of that, but after this series against the Cubs, the White Sox, Jim, in 3 games against the Cubs, hit 10 home runs. The White Sox, this White Sox team, this is the part that's kind of unbelievable looking at the talent on hand. But folks, the Chicago White Sox are tied for second as a team in Major League Baseball with 66 home runs. They are tied with the Atlanta Braves. Only the New York Yankees have hit more home runs than the White Sox this season. The Yankees have 68 as a team. And again, ball go far, team go far. The Chicago White Sox as a team have scored 5 or more runs in 6 straight games, and 7 of their last 8. And this past week, their last 6 games against the Royals and Cubs, they are hitting as a team a 909 OPS, batting .272 with a .350 on base percentage and slugging .559. They have hit 15 home runs in their last 6 games and 11 doubles. And there was a comment on social media when I put this out there on Twitter, Jim, that someone I thought made a good point. Maybe we don't give enough credit to Derek Showman. But you mentioned in our previous episode about this White Sox team being red hot, and the whole hitting system is really clicking now for the White Sox. Bringing in Ryan Fuller to be the director of hitting, and now you got Derek Showman. Everything is really clicking for the White Sox. I'm hoping that it's sustainable, but in the past week, this is the best case scenario. We've been podcasting forever about this White Sox team. This White Sox offense is reminding me of the 2000s era, right? Where like 2005, 2008, those teams are hitting 200 homers. The way that they're hitting home runs right now, they got a shot of hitting 200 homers. And history says for the White Sox, if they do that, they have really good win-loss records.
Yeah, and I think, beyond Showman, it's just a matter of like bat speed training. Like Miguel Vargas getting 3 ticks of bat speed. Like that's not Derek Showman so much as it's just understanding what works, understanding how to build it. They pointed the driveline training program and using the weighted bats and drilling that way. So they're up to speed, I think, in a lot of senses. I think this is more like the Chris Getz infrastructure overhaul of, not ramping up to Dodgers level or Rays level of just like the size of the front office, but at least getting down the basics, like having the essentials of a team in 2026. I'm sure they can add to R&D, but like I've said it before, like when they were in the process of gutting it or reorganizing, I thought like it's going to be incremental, or just like it's going to be a multi-phase thing, just because you don't want to hire 60 people in one day or like 1 year and be like, okay, what do you do with them? Like who's working, who's got traction, and then what do those people need to be supported? Like to me, it was going to be like a multi-step process in that way. And it does seem like you're seeing those gains on the hitting side right now with, Ryan Fuller, and then you get Sherman Johnson in to be the minor league hitting coordinator, and you're seeing just the training that they're talking about at the minor league level about how batting practice is difficult, just the extreme velocities and pitch shapes that they're seeing in the batting cages or in batting practice to try to make the game easier than BP, and trying to make that when they feel good and they want to feel uncomfortable. Like, it does seem like they've hired the right people and brought the knowledge from better organizations, which is what everybody wanted when people wanted the White Sox to be less insular and get away from being the White Sox, then get away from being the Kansas City Royals. I think, maybe the Royals stage wasn't entirely necessary, but I think probably it's a case of Chris Getz being like, who do I know and who do I trust? And then it's a matter of like, okay, who do they know? Who do they trust? And the network branching out from there.
I wonder, with the way that the White Sox are hitting home runs has shocked Chris Getz. Like, maybe none of the players are surprised with the power that they have. Maybe Derek Showman isn't surprised.
Drew Romo sounded a little surprised. I think he's the one guy who's surprised. Like, Tristan Peters wanted a homer. Drew Romo's like, hey, I'm hitting homers now.
Yeah, that's true. But Chris Getz, like, the next time he speaks to the media, I wonder if James can slip in that question. Are you surprised, Chris, on how many home runs this team is hitting? Because this is the part of the metrics that they're just completely blowing out the projection systems before this season. It's great to see, and hopefully it continues, because a lot of it right now is being, Murakami, Montgomery, and Vargas. All three of them have more than 10 homers. And then it's Drew Romo fourth with 4. So it'd be great if the White Sox can find somebody else to help out with the home run parade. But when they're having key homers in key games like Tristan Peters and Edgar Quero, you still take those contributions. So it's great to have 3 hot hitters right now in Vargas, Murakami, and Montgomery, but everybody is contributing to the White Sox offense, and this offense is really clicking. Over the weekend, I went to the Saturday game, and Jim, I had maybe a little too many Miller High Lifes celebrating the White Sox victory. So I put out on Twitter.
Did you float home?
Almost. I was about 15 sheets to the wind. So I put out on Twitter that Davis Martin, the way that he performed, all-star. I think Murakami, all-star. Montgomery and Vargas are performing at all-star level. We could be talking about, in a couple of months, the White Sox sending 4 players to the All-Star game and putting it out there, like, right now we're trying to figure out at that moment how we can send James to Philadelphia to cover the All-Star festivities. And if anybody wanted to help, they could do so by signing up to become a Sox Machine subscriber. And you had a great deal for everybody in which they could sign up for 51 cents for their first month. And I just want to send a thank you to everyone that signed up for a subscription on SoxMachine.com. And also huge thank you to our primary sponsor, Aiken Law. We now have enough to send James to Philadelphia. So for everyone on the White Sox, continue to excel. James is going to be there. He's going to be there in time for the MiLB draft and the Futures game on Sunday, which we're probably going to see Caleb Bonnemer participate. The Home Run Derby on Monday, and the All-Star game on Tuesday. A lot's going on in those 4 days, but I want to thank everybody for recently subscribing to Sox Machine and for all those that have continued to support us over the years. Huge thank you, because that's going to end up being a huge 4 days for us, Jim. So much work to be covering, but so many cool things happening in a short time. And again, just a huge thank you to all of our current and new subscribers.
Yeah. I'm looking at now, we've had 60 new subscribers over the last 2 days, which is awesome. And again, speaks to the kind of the latent energy that White Sox fans had just wanting something. And yeah, I was just, right now it's up to 52 cents because the White Sox are winning 52% of the game. So I'm hoping that price continues to go up. I hope inflation continues to scale with each passing week. Because I said, like, the sale goes away if they hit 500. So it's, that's the deal. But as long as they have a winning record, that sale will present itself. And it's, we offer it, then it's on the consumer, if we're delivering what we're supposed to continue to subscribe beyond the 52 cents. Like, we need more than 2 quarters to get to the All-Star break, but I'm confident that with the product we produce and with the way the White Sox are playing, that we can get 1 month turning into 1 year is the goal from here. It's definitely awesome though. And it's funny how we weren't even thinking about the All-Star break. The draft is around that time. Like, we got plenty to do with the draft. And with the way the All-Star game has gone, it's like one representative and there'll be lots of coverage about them because it's the only game in town. So do we need to provide a 5th or 6th voice for the one All-Star? But now it's, with a whole bunch of guys who are, in some cases like Murakami, sensation, Vargas, and Montgomery, part of their trajectory or their arc of just development and hard-earned development. And then Davis Martin kind of out of nowhere. Like, if those are the 4 guys and they all happen to make it, like, they're all kind of a different kind of All-Star. And that's a case where it's valuable to be there in person to just see it, and just kind of, especially being a networking event or an event where everybody shows up, just hearing what people are saying about the White Sox, because, we've seen at the winter meetings, just, you hear when people are very confused about the White Sox, you hear when people are intrigued by the White Sox, like nobody shies away from opinions in those group events. So I think it's just valuable to be there and just see, like, whether the league thinks they're legit or wants to know what they're doing, what's in the sauce.
It's a lot cheaper for us to cover the All-Star game next year. Mm-hmm. James doesn't live that far away from Wrigley, with the Cubs hosting the All-Star game in 2027. But again, huge thank you to everyone. And if you are just listening to this now and you're not a subscriber, as Jim mentioned, you can sign up first month, 52 cents. After that, be the $5 rate. We're going to be having a Zoom call with our 25 WAR and our VC members. Our VC members are having a blast right now in the group chat, just constantly pestering James with questions about what is going on. And James is getting also good intel, too, as far as the things that he's hearing about Kyle Teal. So, again, if you want to be a bigger contributor and help us out at Sox Machine, there are definitely opportunities to do so. Go to soxmachine.com/products. Now, we mentioned Davis Martin and the All-Star game. We're still a couple months away from the All-Star game. But, Jim, when we previewed this series in our past podcast episode, I was hoping that his start against the Chicago Cubs would be his national launch pad. And with everybody waking up and all the national shows getting back to work on Monday, I think a lot of people are going to be talking about what happened in the south side of Chicago. And I'm hoping that Davis Martin does get the attention he surely deserves. On 91 pitches, 6 innings, he allowed only 1 run against this loaded Cubs lineup. They only had 5 hits against Davis Martin. He did not walk a batter. He struck out 7. His WAR on the season is now 2.1. He's 4th in Major League Baseball. And even for the advanced guys, at a 1.61 earned run average, man, he's way beyond performing his FIP. His FIP is 2.38. That's pretty close. So even if you don't like earned run average and you only like FIP, a 2.38 FIP is still awesome.
It's half of what it was last year.
I'm continuing to lose ways, or I don't know how else to describe Davis Martin as awesome. And that was a big moment, sold out crowd, and he delivered. If you did not have confidence in Davis Martin, but I don't know how you don't have confidence in him now after that start. It really does feel like after Shane Smith's struggles and now his injury, Davis Martin has really stepped up and become the ace this White Sox rotation needed.
Well, and also I think it's building off of beating Jose Soriano 2 starts in a row. Like that was pretty impressive, especially back-to-back starts against the same opponent. You'd expect maybe to be some carryover from the previous game in terms of understanding, oh, this is how he taxes. This is one way of doing it, or his primary way of doing it. And he's just as effective the second time. Face the Cubs lineup that has Dansby Swanson batting ninth, which I think is probably the easiest way to say like how deep their lineup is. Maybe not the nuclear bat in the middle of it all, but in terms of, like the 2005 White Sox lineup of just having a whole bunch of guys who can start something or provide instant offense from anywhere in the lineup. Like if 7, 8, 9 is coming up, that inning could lead to runs just because of how many bats that they have. And all it takes like 2 guys having great at bats in a row and there's a run. And that's pretty tough when, especially on Sunday when trying to figure out like how you're going to make up after 3 innings of Eric Fetty, and there's just no easy inning to kind of drop in a low leverage reliever. And so Davis Martin goes and makes it look simple. And part of it is that, he's only walked 10 guys in 56 innings, which is, really awesome for him. Like even by his track record, like he's never had a walk rate that low. And that makes it a lot simpler when you can say like, well, they have to hit me, and then they're not quite hitting them, or they're not doing it enough, or he's able to cut it off after, 1 hit, maybe 2 base runners and strand them. It is just, I think probably just having such a deep arsenal, having strike throwing with everything. And then I think the slider gaining velocity. I mean, fastball is gaining velocity too. He's hitting 97 now, which when you thought like before, like if he touches 95, that's pretty good. Now he's hitting 97 when he needs to. Having a more powerful slider, I think, gives him that just primary bread and butter that he was lacking before. So he can pitch backwards or sequence in all kinds of ways, but in case of emergency, he has a pitch or a 2-pitch sequence. He can break glass and get to it when he really needs an out. And like that strikeout of Seiya Suzuki, where he chased the slider into the left-handed batter's box, like having that kind of power to it is really, I think, what's unlocked this level for him. And then after that, it's who knows, just maybe like James wrote that great profile about him, never miss a James piece when he's writing about a pitcher he's followed since like the minors or talked to in like the bowels of a minor league ballpark. Cause that's when you get the best stuff. But having seen him going from a 3rd-day draft pick to a potential all-star, or if like the all-star game was today, he might be starting it or being like the second pitcher in. But he just the compartmentalizing he's able to do and just never losing the competing, but not letting it consume him really seems like what a lot of people could learn from him if they were so wired.
Tarik Skubal is throwing. We're still not sure just how close he's returning to Detroit. But the way that Davis has been pitching, it's weird to say because the White Sox have quite a few games coming up against Detroit. And if Skubal can't go, fantastic. That helps a lot for the White Sox. But now I feel confident. I can't believe I'm saying that. I feel confident. Like right now, Davis Martin is on track to start one of the games against the Los Angeles Dodgers in mid-June. If Shohei Ohtani is the other pitcher, I feel confident right now that Davis Martin, even though it is the Dodgers, can go toe-to-toe with Shohei Ohtani. That's how well Davis Martin has been throwing, and watching it in person on Saturday. And in that big moment, he excelled. And this is a great thing to see. Yes, the White Sox all the other starters could step up their game and help out. But yeah, the White Sox, if it's just for one season, we'll see. But at least for this season, they definitely have someone who is pitching at an ace level, and that is the Dart Davis Martin. Now, something bad over the weekend. Seranthony Dominguez. Buddy, we got to clean this up. His last 2 outings have been a little too Alex Colomé for me. Here's our James Fegan asking White Sox manager Will Venable postgame if Dominguez is still the White Sox closer after he allowed 3 runs to the Cubs.
Use multiple guys to close out games with Seranthony, like running the struggles. Do you consider like mixing it up a little bit for what you do in the 9th inning, or is it you still kind of view him as your closer?
Yeah, no, he's our closer, and sometimes that spot, for the closer comes earlier in the game, and we'll continue to use him in the best spots late, but he's still our closer for sure.
Now, this question is asked by James, Jim, because after 6 consecutive scoreless outings from Dominguez, Dominguez has now allowed multiple runs in back-to-back appearances. Have you lost any confidence in Dominguez's ability when he's got the ball and the White Sox have the lead in the 9th inning?
It's the homers, I think, is what's always troubling, kind of going back to Jordan Leisure. And even when he was good last year, in the last 2 months, a lot of people were nervous about him. And it's just because of the homers. And that's when you're asking a high leverage reliever who has 1 inning afterwards. Not like Eric Fetty giving up 2 solo shots and then being able to pitch 5 innings afterwards. And overall, it's like a decent start that you can work with. In the case of as being the last line of defense, when he gives up a 3-run homer, even though like Miguel Vargas kind of seemed like he rushed or panicked on that play a little bit and really didn't get all in the throw and kind of set that inning into motion with a throwing error. So I think, with that being the issue of homers, it does require asking, or does require monitoring, because it is something where case of Bobby Witt Jr. hitting a 2-run homer that narrows lead to 1, sure, okay, better than walking him and bringing the tying run to the plate, make him earn it, and he did. They can rationalize that one. Michael Conforto going deep, 2 in a row. That's when you start to raise an eyebrow and think is this an issue, especially against lefties, which is had historically been his issue. So you do have to monitor it and check are we good? Do we have a better option for this lineup or this sector of hitters that might be coming up? So I think it's always worth asking. I think Dominguez, being on a 2-year, $20 million contract, he is getting the opportunity to close, and he's coming up on his career high in saves. He saved 16 for the Phillies in 2018, and he saved 11 in 2024. He's got 10 right now. So he has the point where he's saved enough, or they've given him enough runway to fulfill what they signed him for or what the conversations were. And if he does fumble enough of them, or if he does prove to be a little bit too volatile for 9th innings, then I think the way Venable kind of answered by saying sometimes we need the closer in the 8th. I think that's the way of talking around it a little bit and say, maybe I'm more confident with no margin for error with Grant Taylor or somebody else who is a lot harder to take out of the yard versus Dominguez if this home run rate continues to just plague him.
It was also a good day for the White Sox minor leagues on Sunday as every affiliate won, so that's an org sweep for all 5 levels for the Chicago White Sox. And there are 2 players, because Jim, you cover this for us with the minor keys every day that the White Sox minor leagues are playing. You can go to soxmachine.com in the morning with your cup of coffee and read what happened on each level. Jim does a terrific job of that. So I got 2 questions for you, Jim. Jacob Gonzalez now has 14 home runs this year. He's got 48 RBIs. He's batting .306, a .423 on base percentage, and he's slugging .638. He is hitting like a former first round pick, but I don't know what I'm supposed to make of Jacob Gonzalez, and I don't know, for those advocating for him to get promoted, I don't know where he plays because he's an infielder. What am I supposed to make of this?
You're right to ask the question or be confused, because I am a little bit too. I mean, Charlotte just creates a lot of noise, the hitting environment in Charlotte. He's hitting right now after today's game. He's got a 1255 OPS in games, 12 of his 14 homers at home. On the road, 238 average, 347 OBP, 13 slugging, which is not bad for him. Based on his track record in the upper minors, that's fine. If that were his production, maybe a little bit higher because of Charlotte. Give him a little bit of a boost for Charlotte. That would be somebody who would be deserving of a cameo or an audition at some point if the roster opened up his way, because he's got enough plate coverage or plate discipline. The bat to ball skills are okay, or they have been at times, to where he might have some success in a limited role. The fact that, he's got a 4-digit OPS now, a little bit confusing. Charlotte does have something to do with it. In the case of Saturday, he hit a 90-mile-per-hour homer, 326 feet, dropped in the front row of right field at Truist Field. That's a Charlotte special that you're not going to get anywhere else. He had a 113-mile-per-hour line drive that was also like the first two rows and also wouldn't have got out of a major league stadium, maybe Yankee Stadium, not quite sure, but another one where Charlotte's right field accommodates or makes it so much easier to hit homers if you're a left-handed bat, that some of the power is noise, but he is hitting the ball harder. You're seeing more like 110-ish or, rounding up to 110 exit velocities when before it'd be like 105 was pretty good for him. So you might be seeing some of the bat speed gains that you saw with Miguel Vargas or Sam Antonacci of just, there's more power than you thought. Also, like he should have been hitting for more power this whole time in terms of like his build, some of his track record at Ole Miss, like the fact that he's stalling out at like 8 homers was troubling. And that was so, people got fired partially because of that pick. The way he kind of fell on his face was shocking and made you question, like, why was this guy, White Sox might have made a mistake by drafting him, but also like he was a comfortable first round pick for everybody. Basically, it was a matter of like whether he'd be picked in the middle third of the first round or back end of the first round, but like everybody had him there. So it was just all very confusing the way that he kind of face planted. So for him to gain some power and hit double digit homers, that should have been in him. And he always had some contact to spare in order to access more power. And you're seeing that this year, hitting for more power, striking out a little bit more, but still less than 20% of the time. So perhaps some things are lining up. James has written about how he's changed his stance and lowered his hands to get more lift. So there might be a whole bunch of things that are working together to finally get him to be somebody who's an easy call for a major league cameo whenever the opportunity presents itself. Right now, it just happens to be at the White Sox infield. There's no room at the inn. So it's either get an outfield glove and start working on things out there, or just, it's going to take an injury or something. That's a good problem. Even Andrew Benintendi's starting to heat up a little bit to where can't give up on him yet. If you really think like he's got that 20 homer form in him, like no use booting him just because you're tired of him, especially if Gonzalez might be somebody who doesn't work out at the major league level. Right now, I think Gonzalez is more of that emergency depth, and it's good that you want to see him. That's kind of annoying that you can't see it tested in Chicago right now.
Caleb Bonnemer hit his 14th home run of the year. He's also got 10 doubles. He's slugging .633. His on-base percentage is .403. Gotta love those numbers. Jim, Bonnemer is batting .259. Should I be concerned about Bonnemer's batting average with Winston-Salem?
The strikeout rate's a little bit high, and he's 20 years old. And so I like seeing that when the White Sox promoted Colby Shelton and Anthony DePino to Birmingham, they didn't like take Bonnemer with them or feel like, oh, he's a top prospect. He also needs to, he's got a 4-digit OPS. He needs to be challenged with the same, like DePino and Shelton are college bats, and they're 23 years old. So they're right for Birmingham. Bonnemer still has time to iron out the strikeout issues. He's talked about how he's getting pitched differently this year just because he is regarded as a threat, like as the guy in the lineup. And that wasn't the case last year necessarily when he hit 12. Like he was a good low A ball hitter, especially for 19, but not somebody who, if a pitcher makes a mistake, that's 2 runs because there happened to be a guy in first. Like, when you only hit 12 homers and most of your power is in doubles, and I think he hit like 30 plus doubles last year, that there's always an element of forgiveness and a willingness to challenge him. Now he's not being challenged, and he says he's expanding a little bit too much or not quite, having to suppress some natural instincts for how he's been pitched basically his whole life or his whole professional career to date, and update his book. And 1 strikeout on Saturday, no strikeouts on Sunday, could happen anytime given his hitting talent, to where he gets the strikeouts past him and it becomes more normal, like 20% strikeout rate. And then you should see the average tick up after that because like his BABIP's fine. Like his, he's missing a lot of opportunities right now with a 30% strikeout rate or in that neighborhood. So lower that, and there should be more contact that falls into play. And all of a sudden you're talking about somebody who's hitting 10 points higher. If no other big changes to his batted ball profile remain. So he's in a good spot for somebody where he's at. And if you have to, if you're creating enough havoc, in setting a personal best in homers by early May, then yeah, if you caused your book to be updated faster than you anticipated, like that's kind of a good problem as long as you can get around to updating it yourself.
Well, the Chicago White Sox are going to try to continue to build off their vibes and continue riding this high after winning the series against the Chicago Cubs. They now have their final West Coast road trip of the season. They will be heading to Seattle, a day off on Thursday, and then heading to San Francisco. This upcoming series against the Mariners is a Monday through Wednesday series. Seattle is still struggling. They're 22-26 on the season. Currently third place in the American League West. They are 2 games back of the Sacramento Athletics. At home this year, Seattle is 12-14. They have a 3-game losing streak entering this series against the White Sox, and they have lost 6 of their last 10 games. The season series so far belongs to the White Sox. The White Sox lead 2-1, if you remember last weekend in that series between Seattle and the White Sox. Your probable pitchers for this series, Monday and Tuesday, these games are at 8:40 p.m. Central Time. Noah Schultz will take the ball for the White Sox against righty Bryan Woo. On Tuesday, it's Anthony Kay, who's been pitching a lot better for the White Sox in his last 2 outings. Seattle is currently to be determined. And then on Wednesday, getaway day, this is a 3:10 p.m. Central Time start. Sean Burke against Emerson Hancock. We talked a lot about Noah Schultz recently, Jim. This is an opportunity for Schultz to bounce back after his previous start against Kansas City. What are you going to be watching for with Noah?
Strikes. It's really what it comes down to is like if he gets beat in the zone or if he gets gives up hits and has a rough start because he's getting hits, fine. Like at that point, I think you take that if you are the White Sox, if you are Zach Bove and Will Venable, like don't be afraid to get beat. His stuff is good enough to where he might get BABIP'd at times just with sinker slider. Those you can get some weird contact that way. And you just have to accept it. I think just the way he's giving it bats away or giving plate appearances away because he walks guys and thus they're not at bats. That's just, it compounds, creates too many pitches, too many problems. Like that's not his game. Never has been his game at the minors. So yeah, just that's all you have to look for.
And we'll be covering these games, of course, on SoxMachine.com. So definitely read as far as the game recaps.
Yeah, I think on the Mariners side, the one pitcher I'm watching is Bryan Woo because I was looking at that matchup and thinking, have the White Sox ever hit him? And the answer is not really. 4 games, 482 OPS allowed. When you're talking about like the White Sox, their improved approach, their ability to hit guys they haven't hit before, like Bryan Woo is kind of on my list of, let's see if this works. Because before I think it's just been can't see the fastball and can't time it and just a lot of quick, easy outs.
No, that good numbers to bring up, Jim. So hopefully Noah's in the zone on Monday, and hopefully the White Sox offense finds a way to generate some runs against Bryan Woo. But this is still a pretty tough series. Again, Seattle should be better than their record. We'll see how this works out for the White Sox. Again, Jim and James will have the coverage for us on SoxMachine.com as I will be covering the Big Ten tournament in Omaha. And then finally for this episode, let's take a look around Major League Baseball, and for all the Cubs fans who are pretending that this series loss to the White Sox is not a big deal, and for White Sox fans that this is their Super Bowl. It doesn't get any easier, Jim, for the Chicago Cubs. They're still at home, but here come the Milwaukee Brewers, and here come the Milwaukee Brewers again, Jim. They're only a game and a half back of the Cubs, so if the Cubs don't bounce back, you're going to go from losing the weekend series against your inner city rival, the White Sox. And if you stumble again, all of a sudden you could be looking at even a tighter or maybe being in second place in your own division, despite having those 2 10-game winning streaks. So this is the series outside of the White Sox I am really paying attention to on how this goes for the Chicago Cubs and how they bounce back from this weekend against the Milwaukee Brewers team that will never go away, it seems.
Yeah, I'm looking at the NL West in a similar way of just Dodgers lose 4 games in a row and the Padres are right there, and the Dodgers win 5 games in a row, and the Padres are right there. Like Padres are always in the back pocket. Like the Dodgers, win 5 straight, and then have Sunday Night Baseball, Padres versus Mariners, and Gavin Sheets goes deep twice, and Lucas Giolito pitches well. So it's like, even though the San Diego starting rotation was a mess early on with injuries and such, like looks like Giolito find the right opportunity for himself, and looks like the Padres found the right guy to, after they more or less withstood their early struggles, or just figure out who can pitch, who's around, who's gonna give us innings, and then how many pitchers do we need, like that Giolito is still available. Works out well for them. But Giolito's first line, looking at him, 5 innings, 1 hit, 3 runs, 3 walks. Like, a little bit of a wonky line, but the Padres 1 hit the Mariners on Sunday Night Baseball. So fascinating race, and looks like it's just going to be a 2-team affair because nobody else is really getting it together. And that's a really fun rivalry. When it's those two going at it, it's I know it's Dodgers Giants, but right now when it comes to just quality of baseball and how badly the Padres seem to want to dethrone the Dodgers, that's, I think, probably the most compelling head-to-head matchup right now.
Yeah, I'm keeping an eye on the Phillies. They still have a long way to go to catch the Atlanta Braves. They may not catch the Atlanta Braves this year, but they're definitely back in the wild card race for the National League. So at least they have saved their season. We'll see about the Mets. The Mets are still in last place of the National League East with a 20-26 record. But that will do it for this episode of the Sox Machine Podcast. Thank you guys so much for listening. If you just discovered the Sox Machine Podcast, you can subscribe to the show wherever you listen to podcasts, such as Spotify and Apple Music. We've been doing a lot of videos, and we'll have more videos as well coming from what happened over the weekend. I'll also be shooting video as well of what I'm watching in Omaha for the upcoming Big Ten Conference Tournament for college baseball from a MiLB draft perspective. UCLA and Rock Chalowski, they'll be playing their first games of the tournament this upcoming Friday. So yes, I will get one more look at Rock Chalowski before the MiLB draft. But definitely check out our videos on our YouTube channel at youtube.com/Sox Machine. We're on social media. We're on all the platforms at Sox Machine. We're on Instagram, so if you have Instagram, we've been posting our videos as well over there via the Reels. You can follow us on Instagram at Sox Machine. You can follow James at JR Fegan. You can follow me at Sox Machine_Josh. We've already talked about becoming a Sox Machine subscriber, but after you listen to this episode, reminder, you can sign up at soxmachine.com/products. Your first month right now is only 52 cents. A great time to sign up and help us out and unlock all of our coverage of the Chicago White Sox, Major League Baseball, and the upcoming MiLB draft for just 52 cents the first month and then $5 a month afterwards. And we will work very hard to earn your subscription dollars. So again, thank you to all of our current and new subscribers this past weekend. The Sox Machine Podcast is a production of SoxMachine.com. You're on for all things Chicago White Sox baseball and part of the Blue Wire Podcast Network. Alongside Jim Margalus, I'm Josh Nelson. Thanks for listening and watching.